All right, everybody, we're going to call to order the meeting of the Metropolitan Planning Organization Policy Board for September 6th, 2021. Thank everyone for being here. The acoustics in this room are interesting, so if you have a hard time hearing, let us know and we'll repeat ourselves. We may have some people joining in online also, so hopefully that'll come through. Chelsea, has this meeting been properly posted?
Yes, it has. It's been posted at the McLennan County Courthouse on September 9th, as well as Waco City Hall for the potential quorum of the Waco City Council on September 10th.
And Mr. Holmes, I'm looking around. I don't know that y'all have a quorum today, so I don't think we need to call. That is correct. Okay. All right. We provide multiple opportunities for the public to address the MPO Policy Board. For items on the agenda, speakers will be allotted one presentation at the beginning of the agenda for each agenda item the speaker wishes to address. Please note each action item will have a separate public hearing later in the agenda, and speakers have the option of addressing the board at either time, but you will only be allowed one opportunity per agenda item. For items not on today's agenda, there is a separate hearing of visitors at the end of the meeting. Chelsea, do we have any registered speakers today?
No, sir.
Okay, there are no registered speakers, so we'll move on to the next agenda item. Discussion of Texas Open Meetings Act requirements. Chelsea?
Yes, so just wanted to take a quick moment to update you on our meeting format and some of the requirements related to that. So this is our first in-person meeting in over a year. You can see that we are physically distanced, which is why we're in this room to accommodate that. The reason why we were able to do fully virtual meetings in the past year is because there is a temporary suspension of some of the requirements of the Texas Open Meetings Act that expired as of September 1st. So now we're back to our standard Open Meetings Act regulations, which requires the quorum to be physically present at this meeting location. We do have some of our partner agency staff that are on the line. So we're really hoping this hybrid meeting works out. There are still some travel restrictions at some employers, things like that, that we should be able to accommodate. The other note is that if we have persons that want to speak at a public hearing or to address the board, those do also have to be in person, but we don't have anyone here today that has registered. So this is an opportunity to ask questions about that, or if you want to have a discussion. If not, we can move on.
Any questions for Chelsea regarding this? Okay, Chelsea, thanks for the update. We'll move on to agenda item 4, approval of the minutes. The minutes were presented in your packet. Do we have any corrections or additions to the minutes? Hearing none, those will stand approved. Next item is election of policy board officers for fiscal year 2022. We are going to take nominations for the chair and vice chair position. As of right now, I am the chairman and Mr. Jim Holmes is the vice chair. Neither one of us can repeat service in this role. I could serve again as vice chair if you so chose, but we will open the floor for nominations. Let's start with the chairman position. So do we have any nominations?
I would move to nominate Councilman Jim Holmes. Second.
Any other nominations? Okay, hearing none, let's put this to vote. All in favor of Jim Holmes serving as chairman, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? There are none. That passed unanimously. Okay. Vice chairman?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Josh Woodward, vice chairman.
Okay.
Second.
Any other nominations for vice chair? Okay, we'll put it to a vote. All in favor for Josh Woodward, serve as vice chairman, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? For the record, I will note that Josh did say aye. Congratulations and welcome.
Pleasure to see y'all.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Their terms will begin October 1st, so they'll be presiding over the next meeting. Okay, anything else on that?
Yes. First, we have a special presentation to thank Mr. Jacob Bell for your service as chair for the 2 consecutive terms.
Thank you very
So
much.
this is for you. Thank you. Not off the hook yet. You still have to preside over the remainder of the meeting. So, thank you.
We'll see what we can do. All right. Okay, let's move on to item 6, update on the MPO director hiring process. So the city of Waco, as a fiscal agent, oversees the hiring process for the MPO director. There was an opening, there were several applications, several well-qualified applicants. The city narrowed that down to a few, and after the interviewing process, they are engaged with the sole candidate. From what I hear, that is moving forward in a positive direction. So we think there's a really good chance that we'll have a new MPO director by the next time we meet or later in the next couple months. So things are going well. If you have any particular questions, we'll be glad to answer those later on, but things are going well. Okay, item number 7, review and discussion regarding administrative changes to the 2021 through 2024 Transportation Improvement Program. Chelsea?
Yes, thank you. I know the AC just turned on, so just feel free to let me know if you can't hear me. We had 2 administrative amendments that we did this summer. The first one is Administrative Amendment 4, and there were 2 reasons for that. The first one is there's a letting schedule modification for the Model Mall project, which again is State Highway 6 or Loop 340 from US 84 to I-35. So in June, TxDOT authorized an additional 1.9 million of Category 2 funds for construction. That was just due to refined cost estimates that are typical at this stage in the process. It did change the construction cost from 46.5 million to 48.4 million. And that's a change in both the federal authorization and the state authorization. But this doesn't have any effect on projects that are in the pipeline in the future that may also use Category 2 dollars. So as part of that, there was also the schedule modification. The contract let date was moved up from fiscal year 22 to 21, moved up to August, but that is a different fiscal year. And the construction start was delayed to fiscal year 22 or fall. So because there was some moving around, a couple bit of the Category 2 dollars and the let dates, it did require an administrative amendment. The next reason for the administrative amendment number 4 is we had revised cost estimates for the transportation alternative projects that were awarded to the city of Waco. We had revised engineering and construction cost estimates. So that's for the MKT Trails project and the Cedar Ridge sidewalk projects. It did not change the project award, so the federal award, and it did not change the local match. And it did not change the schedules as well. We also had a fifth amendment, which was also an administrative amendment for the city of Waco's J.H. Hines sidewalk project, which is the Safe Routes to School Award. In July, TxDOT changed the contract let date from fiscal year 21 to 22. Again, no changes in the construction costs. And as of now, the construction is scheduled to begin in January of next year. But again, because there was that change in the letting date, it did require an administrative amendment. And administrative amendments are minor changes that don't require a public comment period. So I'm happy to take any questions or discussions on this item.
Any questions for Chelsea? This is not an action item, so it's just an update.
It's just an update. Thank you.
Correct. Okay, no questions. We'll move on to agenda item 8. Review and discussion regarding National Highway System designation changes within the Waco MPO region. Chelsea?
Yes, so quick reminder, in 2019, TxDOT initiated a process to review the NHS, so the National Highway System designations in Texas. So this is something that all MPOs went through in the state. And it was actually a large effort because the NHS was established in 1991 and there wasn't a wholesale review in this state since then. So that was one of the reasons to do this review. A second reason is there were blanket changes made to the NHS a few years ago that added a bunch of facilities to the NHS, but a lot of those didn't necessarily meet the system goals that were established by Congress when the NHS system was created. So that was part of the review to see if the roadways on there should remain as it pertains to the goals and intent of the NHS. So there was a process to include MPOs in the review and the concurrence of the proposed changes. So where we left off was number 3, policy board support and MPO concurrent statements. And that was achieved through some of the policy board resolutions that were acted on in last September. So there were two resolutions from the policy board. There is 2020-8 and 2020-9. So 2020-8 is contains the changes that we agreed on, so that the MPO policy board concurred with. And with the exception of one road, those changes would return the NHS system to the pre-fast access system. So before those blanket changes were made. The one exception to that is adding US 77 between FM 2837 and Falls County line. So these were the roadways that MPO staff and TxDOT agreed or concurred on. However, there are a couple of items that MPO did not concur with, and therefore there is a second resolution. So that included US 84 between State Highway 6 and McGregor. We thought that road should remain on the NHS, and the recommendation from TxDOT Austin or FHWA was to remove it. And not only that, we thought that the designation should be extended on 84 West, so at least State Highway 36 in Gatesville, because that's where North Port Hood is, and that is consistent with some of the goals for the NHS system that were established by Congress. So that's where we left off last September. So in July of this year, FHWA sent out their approved changes for this process. And I'm going to run through the changes that were made, and then I'll show you a map of what the NHS system looked like before, and then what it looks like now for our region. So the first change is that US 77 from about 2837 Rosenthal Parkway to our boundary, our county line, was added to the NHS and was upgraded to a principal arterial. Is it easier to, okay. And then I will also add that the NHS designation for 77 doesn't stop at our county line. It actually extends all the way to Victoria, but that's the part that's relevant to our MPO. Okay, and the second slide, the first set of bullets is the part that we concurred with. So that's the 2020-8 resolution items. So these are the roadways that we agreed should be removed from the NHS and essentially downgraded to a minor arterial. However, that 2020-9, those roadways, 84 south or west of Highway 6, that was not kept on the NHS, and it was in fact removed. All this really means is that we can't use category $4 for projects on this stretch of 84 in the future. It will remain as a principal arterial for our planning processes and for TxDOT's planning processes. So truly, like in practice, that's all that changes, is what dollars you can use for that. So this is a map of what it looked like before, with the blue line being I-35 and the red line showing the non-interstate highways that were on the NHS. And then this is what it looks like now. And then you can see that that section of 84 was removed from the NHS. Happy to take any questions related to this.
I don't have any questions, Chelsea, but we kind of talked about this. It seemed weird that they didn't put 84 back then. We tried.
We did try. We submitted the statement of non-concurrence, basically, but FHWA did have the final say in that.
And as you say, it's not like we don't get any funding for that. It's just that category.
It's just category $4. And if someone from TxDOT wants to elaborate on that, we're happy to have you.
Yeah,
Either one is fine.
all right, so category $4, that's our statewide connectivity corridor project funding. And so that's what Chelsea's saying is if in order to use any of that funding, your roadway has to either be on the national highway system or the Texas trunk system. And the Texas trunk system is our statewide version of the national highway system, so to speak. So taking this section 84 off of the national highway system does preclude it from using Cat $4, but it doesn't keep it from using any of the other categories. And not only that, but we talked with the Federal Highway Administration when we were going through this process. Yes, we did take this section of highway off the national highway system now, but that doesn't mean we have to keep it off forever. If things change in the future, we can always try to get it back on the system.
there any other questions or comments for Chelsea or for TechStop regarding this item? Victor or Stan, do y'all see any adverse impact? I mean, from day to day or year over year maintenance projects and upgrades and whatnot? That's what Victor does, shuffle money. Well, as was mentioned, this could be added in the future. As we've talked about it, I think the reason we as an MPO were wanting 84 to stay on and in fact extending it is just, I mean, for those of us around here, it does get a fair amount of traffic and it does seem to be push a lot of people and goods east and west. I know part of the thought process, at least what I had heard earlier, is they really are looking for routes that connect from point A to B as opposed to dead ends or spurs, if you will. And that's part of the deal with 84, is it didn't continue. While it does continue west, it's not as much traffic. Okay, Chelsea, put it for that item.
Oh, yeah.
All right, we'll move on to item number 9, discussion and updates from the Texas Department of Transportation regarding significant highway construction within the Waco metropolitan area. We have Waco area engineer Clayton Zaka here to give us an update.
All right. I apologize in advance. My voice does not carry at all, so sorry about that. Just a couple of ongoing projects. Our State Highway 6 median cable barrier job. That job runs from south of 340 and just south outside of McLennan County. We started that in the spring. We are about halfway done. Contractor is south of McLennan County currently and should wrap up the end of this year, early part of next. US 84 metal beam guard fence upgrade. The limits of that project were from basically 317 in McGregor to Lake Air and Waco. Started that one up this summer. Again, we're roughly halfway complete there. Anticipate completion later this year. Interstate, I'll get into a little more detail here in a little bit, but we're right at $300 million spent out through our August estimate, running about 70-75% complete. We're looking at a substantial completion date of late 2022. And then just a couple of upcoming projects to keep on the radar. We've got a Waco Drive ADA upgrade. We're installing new sidewalk and signals between Centerpoint Drive and FM 933. A contractor actually starting work this week, setting barricades, will be on site next week at the 933 intersection, working their way west towards Centerpoint. And then FM 185 out towards Crawford. We've got a rehab and widening. We're going to be widening shoulders, doing some safety upgrades. We anticipate starting work late this month, early part of October, and expect that to be about a 1-year project. All right, then moving into the interstate. Next. This is down at the south end of the project, 11th, 12th Street. We actually poured this bridge deck last week. Contractor is, as you can see, placed a lot of bond breaker. Actually anticipate placing mainline concrete pavement starting tonight, hopefully. That work will continue through this fall. 4th, 5th Street, we've started setting beams at this intersection. We anticipate setting the rest of those beams actually Saturday during the day. We will have just this portion of 5th Street between the frontage roads closed for that operation during the day. We reopen that evening, but that will get us across the intersection. We really expect action to pick up here through the fall, the end of this year, working on the 4th and 5th Street intersections underneath the bridge. So there will be several upcoming closures. We'll be sure and get that message out. U Parks, beam setting has been ongoing this week. Contractor will set the last of the drop-in sections tonight, actually. We've also recently opened up the south half of the new pavement here. Contractor starting on the north half of the intersection. And that operation will run through this fall and into early next year as well. Brazos River, we've actually completed all the drill shafts here. Weber's currently working on the columns and getting ready to start the caps. We anticipate setting the steel beams on the new structure hopefully mid-October and have that entire structure completed towards the end of this calendar year, early part of next. MLK, again, Weber's steadily working on the new structure. I've completed the majority of the substructure of the new bridge. And we've got beams tentatively scheduled late this month, early part of October to come in and get those set. This is the last remaining structure to be demolished on the project. This is just the span over the railroad. We've got a few more weeks there to finish up, but in the meantime, Weber has come in and started on the drill shafts for the new structure. And again, anticipate having that one completed at the end of this year. 4th Street overpass, the main operation you'll see there is Weber is actually working on the drainage and dirt work for the new northbound main lanes under that underpass. Business 77, Weber's made a lot of progress in the east half of the intersection and the frontage roads to either side. And currently working on the Bellmead Drive intersection just off the page here. I anticipate having that opened up in a couple of weeks to get rid of that little jog at Bellmead Drive. On the west half, we're working on our last utility crossing. Should have it wrapped up in the next couple of weeks and then start working on the west half of the intersection as well. And then just like throughout the project, we've got drillers in working on the drill shafts for the new structure, and that'll be ongoing for the rest of the year. Up at US 84, this is another place where there's been a lot of progress since we last met. We've got the southern half of the intersection constructed, reopened the westbound movement that had been closed. Weber's got the majority of the pavement placed underneath the bridge for the new westbound lanes, and they'll now be working on the area east of the intersection running back to Bellmead Drive in front of the HEB. And then here at Barron's, since this picture's been taken, beams have actually been set. We anticipate pouring that bridge deck, hopefully early part of October, and then continuing to work on main lane pavement on either side of the bridge. And then up at the very north end of the project, again, Weber's been pushing to get northbound frontage road lanes paved, doing some side street tie-ins, and getting ready to start main lane paving operations there.
Wanted to thank you for your good work with 4th Street and University Parks. Obviously, there's all kinds of construction projects that aren't interstate widening going on down there, along with the university cresting over 20,000 students this year, in addition to faculty and staff that work there. So I appreciate the sensitivity to all the new arrivals in Interstate before they open back up.
And absolutely, yeah, we've talked with Baylor quite a bit. We've made sure we've got good pedestrian access under 4th, 5th Street. One of the nice things about U Park was once we got it switched over, we were able to actually open up the permanent sidewalk underneath that intersection. So.
Just have a sense of the, we've got the kind of interconnected river walkways on both sides of the river. Do you have a sense of when that might open back up to pedestrian?
The hope would be that the early part of next year, just Weber's kind of internal goal, it's pretty aggressive, but the hope is to have all of our structures complete the early part of 21 or 22. And once you see that overhead work completed, Brazos, we'll certainly take a look at getting some of that sidewalk open back up. Anything else?
Oh, this has been a great presentation. I always like the aerials to kind of bring it to life. Progress from month to month is phenomenal. And we're talking about having this completed maybe
About a year from now.
18 months ahead of time of the original schedule.
And not quite that much. Our contractual end dates, early part of 23.
Yeah, it's
About a half a year.
It's incredible. It's a great benefit to the city too, as we try to normalize downtown again. We started this project, we were all thinking that it would be the worst thing that happened before the pandemic. So now we have like two different things affecting downtown, and we seem to have a very resilient downtown business district too. So corporate bonuses through every expected will take off. I appreciate the presentations.
Yes, sir. All right. Thank you.
Clayton, I got a couple, sorry, not so fast. So we had a couple of, after the funding cut last year, we had a couple of projects left, the State Highway 6 mall to mall and the Highway 31 at 939. Can you just tell us the latest on each one of those?
So both those projects, actually, Weber was the low bid on both projects. 31 is actually going to be managed out of our Hillsborough office. We're waiting on executed contracts for both of those. I know Weber is chomping at the bit to get started on 31, so I would anticipate that as soon as that's executed, which is probably going to be in the October timeframe, that they'll get the work out there. Mall, as soon as we get an executed contract in hand, Weber was pretty aggressive with their timeline on that job, so that's going to be a little bit shorter than we anticipated. But once we get that executed, we'll walk through some phasing, and I'll be sure to bring that to to a meeting as soon as I get it.
Yeah, and the board may remember, we did, one of the changes we approved on the transportation plan was an increased cost for some incentives. And so it sounds like if they're aggressive on their schedule, that got their attention.
Yes, it did. Yeah, we set it up with a similar structure as the interstate with a plus B where they bid the time and money part of the project and then put the incentives on top. That certainly seems to help.
Very good. Thank you. Now you can go. Clayton, thank you so much. Okay, we'll move to item number 10, Director's Report. Chelsea?
Okay, so our next meeting is typically scheduled for October 21st. Although I will work with the chair, the new chair, to determine if we do need to have the meeting. Right now, we don't have any time-sensitive action items, so we will let you know. The next meeting after that would be November 18th, which is our typical third Thursday of the month. And for the foreseeable future, we will be here in this room and we'll figure out the acoustics. So maybe I just need to learn how to talk louder, but we'll make that work. Of course, always taking requests for agenda items or any questions you may have.
Anybody have any questions for interim director? Chelsea, thanks for all you've done. You've done a great job. Okay, so hearing the visitors for items not on the agenda. At this time, we provide an opportunity to the public address the MPO policy board on any item that was not on the agenda. As a reminder, the board cannot respond to comments received during this hearing. So I will open the hearing at 2:28 p.m. Is there anybody from the public that would like to speak to the board? Hearing none, we'll close the hearing at 2:28 p.m. And moving to item 12, adjournment. So thank you all very much for being here. Appreciate your flexibility. Thanks for letting me serve. I've really enjoyed it and look forward to handing off to the next leadership. I'm sure they'll do a great job. So everyone have a good day. We are adjourned at 2:29 p.m.